Hello, my name is Darcy, and I'm one of your friendly neighborhood teen librarians. Today we're going to be creating spooky pom-poms. Woo! Pom-poms are crazy easy to make, but you do have to attempt some 3D thinking to get the designs just right. These patterns come from the blog Mr. Printables, and there is a link to that blog post in the description of this video. But let's talk about what you'll need. So if you picked up a kit from the main library, you should have a set of instructions, a bundle of black yarn, a bundle of cream or white yarn, some cardboard, a cartoon magnet-shaped template, and 4 binder clips. You'll also need some good scissors for this craft. If you didn't get the kit, no worries. You can get all of these supplies at a craft store or hobby store, or even just like a Walmart or a general supplies grocery store. Really what you need is yarn, cardboard, and the binder clips are very helpful at the end. So you can make pom-poms in shapes and designs of just about anything with at least one line of symmetry. So this ghost that we're going to be making today has a line of symmetry right down the middle of its face. If you draw a line from the top of their head to the bottom of their little skirt, straight through, you have even halves on both sides. So the yarn you can kind of squiggle around a little bit, but the basics are symmetrical. So the way pom-poms work like this is you make the front half on one side and the back half on another side. And then you combine them together at the end and cut everything in half. It's going to make more sense in a minute when you see how it actually works. The back half of our ghost is completely white, so it's a little bit easier, but I'm going to show you how to do the very front half first. But before we get into our actual pom-poms, we're going to have to make the form that we make our pom-poms on, and that is what this and the cardboard are for. So you will need 4 of these cut out of cardboard. So you can trace them on there, you can just cut around, but we're going to get ours in 3, 2, 1. All right, so now that we have our 4 forms, we're going to take 2 of them. So these 2 will be for the front and these 2 will be for the back. We're going to start with our 2 front ones. So you're going to hold them together. And the space we're going to actually build the pom-pom on is just this top section. So we're really not going to go past maybe right about there on each one. These extra long legs are just as extra space and to help it when you're putting the pom-pom together at the end. So our face, we're going to build with this is the top and this is the bottom of the ghost. So the very first thing, the thing closest to our middle line of symmetry is the mouth. So that's what we're going to put on first. So with our black yarn, we're going to open up our bundle here. For the mouth, we're going to aim for the middle of our loop right here, and we're just going to kind of start it. This first wrap doesn't really matter. You're going to lose a little bit of it. Shoot for the middle and do a couple of rounds right in the middle, and then we'll do a little bit higher towards the top, and then we'll go down and do a little bit more at the bottom for kind of a howling mouth design. All right, so I'm going to call that good for the mouth, so I'm just going to snip that bit, and that is our mouth. It doesn't look like much yet, but we'll get there. So the next thing on our ghost is we need a little bit of white space. So we're going to wrap all around the mouth in white until we can't really see this black yarn anymore. If you get a little peeking through, it's not a big deal, but we're going to do that next. Okay, so I also built up a little space above the mouth so that there's some space between our eyes. So I want a fair bit of space up there between our eyes, so I did quite a few wraparounds up higher. But now we're going to put in the eyes. So we just go back to our black. And we'll do just a few wraparounds. Okay, so that is the entire face of our ghost. So now all we need to do is really wrap the entire rest of our D shape in white thread. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap a whole bunch. I am going to really wrap an extra lot down at the bottom so that there's plenty of extra yarn down there to keep this skirt going for our spooky little ghost face. All right, so we'll go into fast forward time and I will just wrap like crazy. All right, so when you have your first half of your ghost really, really well wrapped with a good bit of extra yarn towards the bottom, you can snip your thread and move on to the other half. All right, so that is the first half of our ghost, the front half of our ghost, ready. So before we get to build our pom-pom, we're gonna have to wrap the back half. So I'm gonna grab my other two handy dandy magnet templates, stick them together, and we're gonna wrap our D section. So you wanna try and keep it about even. So we're gonna try and wrap until we get to this level with more at the bottom, less at the top. But we're not gonna put any black in the middle because there's only one face on a ghost. So back to wrapping. All right, I think those are pretty close. It doesn't have to be exact in any way, shape, or form, but I'm gonna call it at that and snip the thread on this guy. Well, you're still gonna need your yarn though, so make sure you save at least a little bit of yarn. All right, to finally construct our pom-pom, we're gonna need our two wrapped sets of U's and binder clips. So what we are going to do is carefully bend the cardboard, our cardboard legs back on each of these, right about where the yarn sits. We're going to do that on both sides. And remember, you got to remember which one's your top, where your top and your bottoms are. Not at the front and the back, but what's top and bottom. So you want to match up the tops together, and you're going to binder clip those arms together. And then you're going to do the same with the bottom legs. Okay, so now we have this crazy looking thing. So now comes the fun part, basically. We're getting into the fun part. What we need to do is take our scissors and we are going to cut all of the yarn down in between these two pieces of cardboard. It's going to be a little tricky, especially in the places where you've got a lot of yarn built up. But you're just going to cut down the middle. Don't jostle it too much because you don't want your yarn to like fall off. Nothing is keeping it together except force at this point. So that's one side done. So now I'm going to do the other side. Ta-da! Doesn't it look like a pom-pom? Okay, let's take a moment to go back to symmetry, right? So you can see now where our front line of symmetry is, right? You can't really see much of our ghost yet. He's a little wonky. But there are, so you've got your front, your central line of symmetry, and then at the top, you've got another line to see how your front and back goes together. Okay, so now here's how you make sure your pom-pom stays together. So you've just cut down this central line all the way around. So now we're gonna wrap some string, some yarn, really tightly around that section. This is gonna hold everything together. So you're gonna thread a piece of yarn in there, and then you're going to tie the tightest little knot that you conceivably can in between some cardboard. The tighter you pull it, the less likely your pom-pom is to fall apart. And I'm gonna trim this ends. Okay, so now we can take the cardboard out of our ghost. So we're gonna unclip our binder clips, and now we're gonna pull out our cardboard pieces. So the centers is where they come out. And fluff up our pom-pom. That looks like a ghost, right? Okay, so part of the deal with making pom-poms like this is now you are gonna give your pom-pom a big old haircut. So to go from this to this, we're gonna trim down the whole top face, all like from the mouth up. We're gonna cut it really close. You can start with just a little bit of a trim and then cut it closer and closer and closer. But we're gonna leave this bottom section loose so that we have a little bit of a skirt. So we're gonna go into fast forward land and do some hair cutting. Once you're pretty happy with your little ghost's haircut, you can kind of smoosh around your yarn bits. If your eyes aren't coming together quite right or your mouth isn't in the right shape you want, you just kind of wiggle them around. They've got a fair bit of movement in them. It is as simple as that, really. Once you kind of had the lines of symmetry down on what you want to make, you can make a lot of stuff out of pom-poms with a bunch of different yarns. It just takes some practice, right? So with the yarn colors that we have given you, you can make this ghost, which is a pretty good beginner pom-pom to make, but you can also make a little skull. It's a little more complicated, it's got some more steps, but it's the same basic concept. You're gonna follow your lines of symmetry. So a line down the middle of the face, and then you're gonna do your front and your back. Now, I am not gonna walk you through how to make this particular little skull, but if you figure it out with your symmetry and want to make one and take a picture and send it to us, we would love that. And if you get really stuck and need a bit of a hint, maybe, you can check out Mr. Printable's blog with these original patterns on them. The link is in the video description again. Happy spooking! Goodbye.